you have more information and you can really flow better with the people that you are working with. Because this is a session really about your own self-awareness first, and then how you are aware of others. We're covering the DISC model of human behavior. And one of the things that we talk about when we talk about DISC is, if I know myself first, then I can know you. So that's why you see it's self-awareness and awareness of others. And here is the leadership quadrant that we have been working through. And I think that when it comes to this, you can see that there are the 4 elements of EQ, the self-awareness and then self-management, right? And how we look at ourselves. But then the other 2 elements are the social awareness, what we observe in a social context, and our relationship management, how well we manage our relationship with others. And so much of this can come down to, well, not so much of it. I would say that a part of your communication style and your personality impacts your self-awareness and how you use that to manage yourself and then to relate to others. So I hope you find this a fascinating session. It is my very favorite thing to talk about because I see the difference that it makes in people's lives when they understand themselves first, and then they can understand others. Let me give you an example of what I mean. So if we turn to the next slide, you're going to see this cute lineup of little boys. And these little boys are all different. And the teachers lined them up and she said, we're going to have a picture taken. Everybody pose. Now, if you look at this picture of these little boys posing, do you see any personality shining through? Give me a thumbs up if you see personality shining through in this picture of these little boys. I just need to see some thumbs ups popping across my screen. Or you can just hold your thumb up. And I'll give you, there we go. I see, John, thank you, John, rescuing me with the little thumbs up. I want you to take a close look at what I mean, all right? Let's look at this little boy here. Look at the grin on his face. Little boy number 5. Would you say he's excited to have his picture taken? And he's probably been told by his mom and dad how to have a nice smile and how to get his picture taken, right? Now, let's look over at boy number 2. Look at boy number 2. He is striking a massive pose. He is large and in charge. You see what I mean? And I actually know a little boy who strikes this kind of pose whenever he gets his picture taken, and it's absolutely hysterical. He is in charge. Now, let's look at this little boy here, number 4. Do you think he's excited to have his picture taken, or is he a little bit reluctant? Can you tell? He's going to be a little reluctant, dizzy. So if you start to look at these facial expressions, yes, and the body language, that's telling you a lot about how these individuals are showing up in this circumstance, okay? So some of these people, these little boys, are going to be easy to get to know. If you go and play with them on a playground, they're going to jump right in. This little boy is going to jump right in. This little boy is probably going to lead the charge. This little boy is probably going to be a little bit shy and reluctant to jump in. He'll have to be cajoled. And that's all about their personality style. So when you begin to read the body language of others and their facial expression of others, that begins to be a big clue in how and what their personality style is. But every single one of us has a unique personality. Let's flip on to the next slide. And this unique personality and our upbringing, many factors allow us to see life from different points of view. And I love this slide because if you're standing on one side, you see the number 6. If you stand on the other side, you see the number 9. Are they right? They're both right, aren't they? It's just that they're looking at it from different points of view. And this is one huge thing to take away, is that sometimes we think we're right and the other person thinks they're right. But if you step back a minute and think, wow, okay, maybe it's the number 6, or maybe it's the number 9. It's that number on the floor, and we're just looking at things very differently. So when you have that kind of an attitude, I'm right, they're right, but we just look at it from different points of view, it can begin to start a conversation about how to resolve, about how to come together so that our differences actually enhance one another. And that's really what we want to be able to do, is help the person that we're speaking with, or the others that we're talking with, that their view is valuable to us and that what they think matters to us. And the tools that we're giving you make a big difference in that. So let's flip on. And all of you, I'm assuming, have had the opportunity to use the online DISC tool. Even if you have, or if you haven't, please go ahead and bring up your QR code now and go through the quiz, and we'll help you as we go through this session. If you've already done it and you loved it, take a picture of this, because you can then share this with your family, with your friends, with the people that are on your teams, and it will begin to create a new language of speaking with one another as you understand the personality styles, okay? So as we understand DISC, as we look at DISC, DISC is an acronym for the 4 different personality styles. D for dominance or directness. They're very direct, they're large and in charge. I for influencing. S for steady. Nothing flaps them. They're pretty much like the calm waters. And then C is for compliance. They're compliant with rules and regulations. So these are the 4 different personality styles that we are tracking in this tool. And the cool thing about this tool is that you're going to have a few different numbers that you get to look at in that tool, which will go into this a little bit more. But I do want to share with you the background of DISC and why we're using this, okay? Because there's a lot of personality quizzes that are out there. You may have taken them. There's Myers-Briggs, there's Enneagram, there are many of them, okay? The difference with DISC is that DISC was designed to help people understand themselves and others. So the difference is that DISC is outward facing. And it was developed by Dr. William Marsden, who was a professor at Harvard University. He's also the gentleman behind the character Superwoman. He developed the lie detector test. So he was very much into understanding these different styles. And at the time, his contemporaries, Nietzsche and Jung, were focused on abnormal behavior. That's what they were interested in, is aberrant behavior. And Dr. Marsden said, well, all right, that's fine, but there are more normal people in the world than there are aberrant people in the world. So why don't we develop something that normal people, and that was part of the title of his book, Normal people can use to understand themselves and to understand others at the same time. And that's really how DISC came to be about. And since then, it has been heavily validated through many different institutions and shown that it's between 85 to 95% accurate. So I think we can trust that as a fabulous tool. Plus, it's not all about you. It's about understanding others. And isn't that impactful that you're able to then spot these different styles? So if you look at this, we've got 4 quadrants, and here's how he broke it out. You're either assertive, or another word would be outgoing. Assertive people have stronger voices. They talk a little bit louder. They have bigger gestures. Not all Americans are assertive, trust me. We may feel that way to you because we're very demonstrative, but assertive people are much more open and vocal. Reserved people have a softer tone of voice. They speak at a slower pace. Their gestures are more gentle. Then we have the other two sides of the quadrant, people oriented. This does not mean that this people oriented. You are focused on the individual that you're in front of versus task oriented. And task oriented doesn't mean that you don't like people. It just means that your priority throughout the day is to get the tasks done. Some people, their priority is the people. So when you break this quadrant like this, you see that if I'm assertive or very outgoing, but I like to get my tasks done, that's really important to me to feel good, I'm a D. And if I'm very outgoing and assertive and loud and whatever, big gestures, but I'm more concerned about people by the end of the day, I'm an I. If I'm people oriented, but I'm quieter, I have a softer voice, I have a slower pace, I'm an S. And then if I'm reserved, but I really want to get the tasks done, I'm compliant, I'm conscientious. And that's where we get the DISC from. Quick question for you. You see 4 personalities here. When you take any sort of a DISC assessment, DISC has 41 that they will register, 41 different personalities. But I'm going to ask you this. How many personalities do you think are actually in the world? Anybody have a guess?
Many.
Huh? Mixed, many, exactly. They're about 8 billion because every single one of us has a unique profile. And you're going to see you're going to see your primary profile there, which is the higher number, and you'll see your secondary profile there, which is your second number. So we can have all these different mixes, but please understand, you cannot put people into a box. This is a tool to help you begin to understand yourself and understand others, but nobody wants to be told they're only this. And that is one thing I just want to point out, is that as many people are in the world, you are uniquely wired. You are uniquely and wonderfully made for a specific purpose. So there is no right answer. Make sense? Every single person is valuable. Every single person is unique and wired for a purpose. And your personality is a big part of that. So if you look at your identity, your primary and secondary profile, and get that ready, I'm going to turn it over to Matthew, who's going to walk you through all 4 styles. And you're going to enjoy this.
All right. Thank you so much, Leslie. All right. So I want you guys to get out your results. I know a lot of you guys have been sending them in the chat group on WeChat. So I've seen some of those. I've seen some here in the chat group here. I see a D and I. And then in the chat group, I saw a few. I've got a DC. We've got a IC. We've got an SI, a DI, a DC. I mean, just from the small grouping that we have here, I'm seeing already probably 14 different types of people on just the 12 people we have in this group, which is it's quite fun. I'm actually an ID, same as Leslie as well. I'm incredibly high in the I. So if you guys notice when you get the results, there's a scale, right? And so, one's the highest, and then the second one is next to that. Some of them are the high is so incredibly high. I'll show you from the chat group. I mean, this is pretty even straight across, right? Across the way, that's quite even. And I also want to let you know that some of these are more natural, so your natural tendencies, and then there's some that are actually learned or adaptive. And so we're finding that there's actually other elements of the DISC profiles that we're learning about as people learn more about DISC and share more about DISC. There's more information and more research coming out. And the beautiful thing about DISC is that most of this information is free and online and available for you, and in Chinese. Now, one thing I do want to mention, so you're seeing the word dominance here. That just happens to be the fact that we made a word that we can remember, DISC, disc, is why dominance goes first. There's no importance to it. There's no better. Also, that word, sometimes people, when they are being called dominant, you're dominating someone, it can have a negative connotation. So don't put too much into that word. And actually, if you look at the Chinese, the one here on the screen is 掌控性, but in the assessment that we have online, it's called 支配性. 支配性. Now, to be honest, there's no great translation for these. But if we're going to get down to it, the important thing that you guys look at is this quadrant here, and then understanding what these elements mean. So don't get too caught up on the words. Look more into either the colors or the letters or whatever it is. But let's look at who's someone who's highly outgoing or highly confident in themselves, right? 外向, 自信, and then really focus on getting things done, getting tasks done. So that's what we would call a D, right? And in this situation, now they're going to have motivating factors that drive them are going to be getting results, getting things done, right? We're looking for action. We're looking for fast pace. We like making decisions. We like taking authority in situations. That's where we can see where this can be adaptive or natural. Some people naturally like taking authority. Some people are forced to take authority because they're put into a leadership role, and so they can adapt into more of a D when they're at work than, for example, at home. And so I don't want you to say, wow, once I have this hat on, I can't ever take it off. This is just who I am. Well, actually, that's not true. You can adapt and you can adjust and you can grow. Now, people who are a very high number in one of those things, you'll find it's probably a little bit more difficult to move in and out. Whereas people who are, relatively flat across the, 29, 25% across the board, usually find it a lot more likely that they're adaptive and kind of have a more chameleon personality, where when they're in a small group setting, they might be more attentive and close, whereas they're in a large group setting, they can also take the lead if they have to. So I just want to remind you of this. But for those high Ds, which I've seen a few of them in the chat group, there's a few out there. Let's see, who's this? Helena in Shanghai. And I think I saw Daniel was also, or Tiger, there we go. Tiger was a very high D. Oh, Daniel was a high I. Benson also quite a high D. So these are our high Ds in the group. Now, you guys love accomplishing tasks, right? You love getting stuff done. You love winning, like to win. That's what it's all about sometimes. And if there's a win available, you want to get it, even if it's not a competition to anyone else. However, there are some things. Now, what we're going to do for each of these is the things that these personalities need to learn. Now, we just saw that you love action, you love change, you love, taking on new things, accomplishing things. But sometimes we need to know, specifically in teams. So we talked about how this is not just about learning ourselves, but learning others, right? And interacting with other people and managing relationships. And you need to understand that relaxation is not a crime. Sometimes patience is a virtue. We need to, maybe slow the pace down for everyone so that everyone can come along, right? And so there's a tendency as high Ds for us to want to steamroll and to get things done and maybe put relationships on the back burner. Well, people that are highly relational, your I's and your S's, will feel very uncared for in those situations. And so we need to make sure that we're being very verbal, communicatory, getting out the words of the whys of what we're doing. Yes, we want to get this task done, but we need to let people understand why it is that we're doing it, the way that we're doing it, things like that. So these are some of the things that you need to learn. Now, obviously, there's so much more. And you can go online, you can throw ball and chat GPT and all whatever you want to do to get more information. I'm just trying to elicit some thoughts out of you so you can see some stuff that maybe you weren't aware of yourself. Or now that when I say it, I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I can kind of see that. Or someone who's like this, you're like, oh, that's why they're like that. Just to kind of just open some eyes. So we're not going to go super deep because a lot of this depth you can find at the touch of a button. But for the rest of it, let's keep going forward. Now, another thing that we want to talk about is the key motivations for each one of these things. Now, what would you guys think is a key motivation for the high Ds? If you were focused on accomplishing tasks and you're extroverted and outgoing, what do you think would be the number one motivation? Most Ds would agree. They would shake their heads and say, yeah, it's achievement. I want to get stuff done. I want to achieve a task. I want to accomplish some goals. I want to hit some goals, make some goals, and I want to win. And so achievement is actually the number one motivation for high Ds. Now, knowing that is very effective in leading high Ds. Giving them the ability to achieve, an opportunity to achieve, is going to be incredibly crucial for them to feel energized and like they're a contributing party to this team. Now, the comfort zone, this is what we're going to.
Oh no, he froze.
Seems we lost Matthew.
Let me see if I can text him. Maybe he probably knows. Let's see.
我觉得我们可以分享一下。诶 Matthew, are you back? 好，他已经回来了，马上。
John, let me know if you want me to help until we get Matthew back.
Yeah.
Okay. And was he driving the slides?
John，你那边有没有那个 slide PPT slide？
我没有下到本地，我
You
要
had the
找一
slides
找。
up?
Yeah, I think the from email I should
Okay.
just send out.
Do you want me to go ahead and share my screen for the
Okay.
slides?
Yeah.
And then we'll get Matthew back.
You
Oh, there
guys
he
hear-
is. Yay. Okay. Matthew, you're doing such a good job.
You know what, Leslie, my PowerPoint. Let me see if I can get my PowerPoint back up. Oh, it seems to be working now. All right.
Okay.
So let me see if I can share it again.
Okay.
Oh, sorry about that, guys. I just had an internet issue. All right. Can you see and hear me now? And you can see the screen?
Yes, and we lost you after the next slide. You were on oh yeah, you were here. Sorry.
There we go.
I was
All
thinking
right.
the other
So
one. Yeah.
the comfort zone, obviously, with high Ds is having conversation with a very clear purpose. They like to know exactly what you're thinking, what you're planning on doing, and how it's going to get done because they want to accomplish things. They don't know. I shouldn't say that they don't care, but there's a tendency to put emotion as secondary and project as primary. So that would make us feel comfortable as having clearly delineated projects and activities and producing, creating results and moving at a fast pace and getting things done. Checking things off of a list is incredibly comfortable and fulfilling for high Ds. Now, for those of you who are high Is, I myself actually, I don't know if I can find my results to share to you, but I can say this, I'm a very, very high I. I'm like a 42% or something like that in the I. My secondary is probably a D, but this one's overwhelmingly the most. What you'll notice about this for the translation, there is only one, and it's 影响性. It's the influence, and it's to have influence. Because if you think about what they are, they're highly assertive and outgoing, and then also really, really focused on people. Well, that's all about influencing others, being willing to stand up, being willing to talk, being willing to be in front of the group. It's less important that we're accomplishing things, more important that we're doing this thing together, that we're having a good time, that we're having fun. And so you can think about what that does. That allows for being really, really engaging, for bringing people along and allowing to give a very favorable impression for people, being usually very enthusiastic, seeing the good in others, not really necessarily needing a set plan. In fact, sometimes a set plan might be discomfort, liking to be spontaneous, not knowing what's going to happen next, being asked what's going on, what's going to happen. I don't know. Let's see what happens. Let's go at it. Let's have fun. But that makes great group participation. Most people enjoy having an I in the group. However, the influence can be negative. There can be points where, fun is what it's all about. Now, what about getting things done? So we need to remember that, yes, it is okay to have a good time in a team. It is okay to make people feel involved and feel comfortable, and it's okay to make jokes and things like that. But it's very difficult for us when it's time to get stuff done, because we prefer to spontaneously move on to the next task even before the last one's been done. We don't care so much about ticking things off. We'd rather just try something else. Let's go. Let's keep going. So changing all the time isn't necessarily always a good thing, because we need to sometimes be able to focus for long periods of time. There's some tasks that require very concerted effort, and we need to learn to slow down. And instead of only building into relationships and only making jokes and only being spontaneous, but also to consider there's other people involved here that have a different, maybe they're not as outgoing and extroverted. Maybe we need to consider all the things that are going on, rather than just saying, well, it's good enough. Let's go. Let's move on. Let's have a good time. Let's enjoy ourselves. Sometimes it's actually quite important to do things properly, orderly, and focused. So those are areas that I's really need to learn and need to grow. Now, you could probably guess what the key motivation for the high I is. It's actually based on others, on their interpretation or the way that they perceive you. And it's just recognition. Being understood, being heard, being appreciated, liked by others, being recognized, saying, hey, great job. I love that you're here. And it's more about them as a person in relationship to you, recognizing them. Hey, I loved being together with you on this team. Rather than saying, hey, that thing that you did was great. It's more about who you are as a person. Because remember, they're more people oriented. So they themselves feel that motivation when it's people oriented as well. The comfort zones for I's, usually more people. I know for me, I would much prefer to be sitting down with all of you in a room or standing up in front of you, rather than standing here in an office by myself in Guangzhou. I'd rather be with you guys. And at the end of the night of a high social, interaction, like a party or speaking, I'm energized. I know for my wife, who's more of an SC, she's exhausted by the end of the night. So I need to remember that about her. But she also can know that about me. Sometimes she feels bad that we have to do this and that and all these social things. In fact, I'm actually loving it and having a great time. I like to have unorganized time. I like to not have a set task or a set plan for my day, and just kind of start the morning, see how it goes. And guess what? I get done what I'm going to get done and have a good time the rest of the time. Now, that's obviously, there's a lot of areas where I can grow, and a lot of problems that can create. Additionally, high D's might be frustrated by high I's, for example. And we're going to give you some tools in a moment to remind you of these and then start looking into how to interact with these different types of people. So hang tight if you're worried that you're not getting enough information about, well, how do I apply this? We'll move on to that in a second. Moving forward to steadiness, again, there's, I believe, only one translation for this one, which is Wending Xing. And Wending is just that, right? Being steady. Now, Wending is very good for teams to have someone that is reliable and caring, and we know exactly where they are and what they're thinking about. They're good, great listeners, great empathy, right? Being very consistent. You know that you can count on them. Very loyal, loyal to a fault sometimes. This allows them to be very patient, and when there's excitement, they have a tendency to be able to calm things down, right? Now, you can imagine if they're people-oriented, but more, I forget the English word, but anyhow, reserved or whatever the English word is. You guys know what it is. Anyhow.
Introvert.
Yeah, so introverted, thank you. So if they're more introverted and more people-focused, well, that doesn't mean that they are afraid to be with anyone. That just means they're very motivated by being one-on-one, right? Or one and two, small groups of people is usually what energizes them and makes them feel happy, makes them feel fulfilled. They love close relationship, deep relationship, relationships that can be built, relationships that can grow, relationships that can remain over a long period of time. And so they make really good friends, really good listeners. And it's imperative to have them on our teams because they offer a stream of steadiness that allows teams to, in times of fluctuation, have someone who's really standing there to care for everyone, regardless. Now, this can obviously lead to some drawbacks, if you could call it that. So things that need to be learned is, sometimes change is a good thing, and sometimes change is necessary. Sometimes you need to take some forms of risks, and you don't have to sacrifice truth and accomplishment for friendships. So sometimes they value friendship at such a high level that they're unwilling to have tough conversations or unwilling to be hurtful or unwilling to steamroll or to do tasks to get things done because they feel like, well, but what if I hurt this relationship? And so sometimes we need to understand that, in a team with our colleagues, friendship's not always everything. It's great to be friends. It's great to be caring. It's great to have empathy. But there could be a tendency for hurt, getting our own feelings hurt, and then also feeling or frustrating a high D, for example, who wants to accomplish tasks and do it at a high speed and a high rate. It could be frustrating for them if what you're caring about is long, detailed conversations about feelings. You can imagine how that would create some tension. Now, the key motivations for high S, if you can think about the depth of the emotion and empathy in which they are capable of feeling and hearing and understanding, the thing that motivates them the most is just being appreciated, right? Again, it's focused on the person, like an I, similar to an I is about recognition. I want to be seen. Whereas an S says, I want you to focus on me, but I want you to appreciate me on a personal level, in a relationship level. I want you to feel happy that I'm around. And so that highly, highly motivates them and makes them feel like an integral part of a team if you're just willing to say, hey, you know what? I just really appreciate you being here. It's not about the things that they've done, but it's who they are as a person. Now take a note of that because it's incredibly important, because for me, specifically in my own marriage, understanding how to communicate with my wife, for example, and let her know that I appreciate her for who she is, not for what she's accomplished, and doing it in a way that's not necessarily in front of tons of other people. She doesn't need to have me recognize her in front of a big group. She wants to feel appreciated one-on-one or in small intimate settings. And that's going to give me a lot more, points with her when I can do that in a very close relationship with her. Now, my son, who's a high I, is completely different from that. He wants to have recognition. When he's playing soccer, he wants to see that his goal has been scored. He wants to know that I saw it and that I think he did a great job, because he's more of an ID or a DI. And so he likes being up and out. He likes being seen. Whereas my wife more likes, being felt. Now, the comfort zone, obviously, for S's is going to be a little bit more routine and predictable. They don't like changes much. And so predictability is very comforting. When there's a routine, that this is what I do when I wake up, this is what I do from this time to this time, I've got a plan, I don't want to change that, this is the way I do it, because I want to focus on other things like personal connections. I like working on teams. In fact, I love working on teams because I love personal connections. However, pressure can happen when they're not routine or predictable, or big changes happen, or you give me too many tasks at one time. It can create a high amount of stress when I'm having to do too many things at once and not able to focus at all on relationships. Moving forward to compliance. Now, you saw that this one also, I believe, has different translations there. Yeah, 跟从型 or 服从型,服从型 or 真进型. Yeah, the translation is different. Compliance in English could also have a bit of a connotation. Again, don't focus on the words. Think about who this person is, right? They're highly motivated by tasks, by accomplishment. But unlike these who are extroverted and very confident, they're more introverted and reserved. So people who are introverted and reserved, but highly focused on tasks, these are the people that are in that C part of the quadrant. They love to have very clear, delineated standards. Now, you can think of accountants or lawyers, things like that. People that say, this is the way that it should be done, so this is the way that we will do it. And they get it done that way, exactly the way that it's supposed to be done. They're highly motivated by that. They like to focus on details. They like to check for accuracy. Their brain can put lists together, make sure the lists happen, and think analytically about the whys and hows of these things behind this task. It makes them good diplomats because they're so tactful about communication. They don't focus much on emotions. They focus on the facts. Just give me the facts. Tell me what happened. Not how you're feeling. Tell me what happened. And so that creates a very tendency towards indirect conflict or not taking conflict of a head-on nature because they're not as outgoing. So whereas a D would be willing to take a conflict on direct in the nose and saying, this is a task that I need to accomplish, we're going to get through this fight. They would rather say, okay, whoa. I feel like you're attacking me. Let's just go into what happened, exactly what happened, and things like that. Now, the things that need to learn, I have to remind my wife of this all the time because she's also a very high C. Perfection is not always a requirement. You can see the target there, that anything that's not perfect, anything that's not an A, well, guess what? That's a failure. And so sometimes they can get caught on minutia, on the importance of details, and then lose sight of the importance of accomplishing a task or having a timeline or something that, that doesn't need hyper details. Well, we could delegate that away. We could let some other people do these things. Whereas, for example, relational things or marketing and things like that, where details aren't as, here's the clear-cut way that we get it done, well, then we can outsource that to the other parts of our team that are good at that kind of thing. And so we can start learning. You guys can see how these things can start working together and how these in combination will work and how a team actually is going to need all of these parts. And so what we're going to do is, as Leslie comes back on in a moment, she's going to start talking to you guys about, now, how do these work together? How do you motivate? How do you leverage? How do you build teams that are these different parts moving forward? Now, Obviously, for a C, motivation is all about quality. It's about getting it done right. It should be done. And if it's worth being done, it's worth being done right. If it can't be done right, we shouldn't even have tried this in the first place. What are we even doing here? We need to get this done right. We need to get it done properly. And so recognizing them for the quality of their work is highly motivational to them. Knowing that they've ticked off the boxes that says that we did it just the right way is highly motivational for them. And that's important for you to know if you have C's on your team. They're absolutely fantastic for checking and getting things done properly. And it's lovely for them to hear that they are appreciated for the quality of their work, not necessarily the emotions that they showed throughout or how they're working together with the team. They want to know that what they've done is done right. Comfort zone for them, obviously, is going to be a lot more precision work, right? Things that are highly skilled, things that are very specifically precise. We would rather focus on facts than feelings. Just the facts, ma'am. We just want to know exactly what should be done, how it should be done, when it should be done. Let me know the facts. Let's let it happen. If there's a conflict, it's because something went wrong with the facts, not because of emotions and things like that. That leads us to the knowledge that they need a very clear job description. If they're going to be making decisions, they need to be highly data driven, and you have to have a very clear communication of the structural why and the outcome. If we do this 1, 2, 3 things, then the outcome will be this. This is what we're shooting for. This is what I expect of you. They feel very comfortable when they have very clear-cut expectations. When a high I says, "Hey, let's just get it done," or I don't really care. Let's just have a good time. Ooh, makes their skin crawl because but what am I supposed to do? What are the things that I need to accomplish? What are the things that I need to get? Just give me something that I need to get done. And so you can see where conflict can arise there. Now, you guys can take a screenshot of this. This is probably the most, one of the top 2 most important tools of this. I'm actually going to give you the Chinese one there. That's probably a little bit more beneficial for this crowd. We can probably also send this to through the chat, just so you guys have this as a tool. So you can see basically each one of these is the DISC, and then each one of those has 4 separate groups there. The environment that they need, the things that they need to learn, what are the best ways to reply or to respond to this type of person, and then the types of tendencies that they have. You can see that all there in one chart, and it's a tool that you can pull up over and over and over again to help you in dealing with other people, to be honest. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand the time back over to Leslie, and I just want her to share with you guys about some of the things that she's utilized DISC for and some of the relationships, and then also how you guys can start utilizing this information in your relationships going forward. Leslie?
Thank you, Matthew. What a brilliant job in explaining those 4 profiles. Thank you so much for that. I love learning from different people and got so much out of that talk. I would like to call your attention to, as Matthew had said, each of these are divided into 4 different quadrants and how you might use them. The first thing that I'd like you to do is figure out where you fit on this chart. Can you just point to your own high tendency? What's your highest tendency? Is it dominance, influence, steadiness, or compliance? Because you want to be able to recognize yourself first, okay? So let's say that you're an I, a high I. What you would do is you would go through tendencies and check off all those tendencies that relate to you. So is it enthusiasm, entertaining? Is it you're optimistic? Do you check all of them or just a few? And if you're an S, C, D, you're going to do the same thing. This is an important part because you're confirming what you notice about yourself to be true. Now, remember, I said there's 8 billion different personalities out there. And you're going to do this for each one of these quadrants, but you're going to start with your highest tendency and check off your highest score and check off those tendencies that most relate to you. Then you're going to go to the responds best. Do I respond best to a democratic manager? Do I like to socialize outside of work? Do I recognize abilities, like my abilities recognized, etc.? You're going to go through the needed environment. What makes you flourish, where you just really enjoy life? What is it about the environment that really speaks to you? Check those off. And then the things that you need to learn. That's where you have to have a little moment of authenticity with yourself. Are deadlines important to you? If they're not that important, then you probably need to learn it. These are the need to learn is the blind spot in your personality style, where it will help you understand the need to learn is often a trigger for another personality style. So if you want to be able to really see something from another's point of view, sometimes we have to take a look at our blind spots to understand that. So again, it's important for you to go through each one of these styles, starting with the one that you have tested out as being the highest, and then going through each one and understanding about yourself first. What calls to you? What are you? Because you are a blend of all 4 of these things and you are unique. You just simply happen to have a primary and a secondary, but there will be parts of you that this all works with. I'm going to give you a quick example. I'm a high I, D, like Matthew and I are both the same. My blind spot is definitely when it comes to compliance, because I'm not a high C. I don't think this way. It's very low on my chart there. And if I looked at my high C's, the different characteristics here, one thing that that's important to me is right down here, limited risk. I don't like so much risk. And that's funny because a D loves risk and I'm part D. However, there are certain things about risk that bother me. So that's kind of a C part of me. I have limited risk. Okay, so that's cool. The other thing is that I have learned over time, because I'm a high I, the importance of checking accuracy. So now I am much better at checking accuracy. Is it the first thing that I do? Probably not. But it has become much more important to me. So this is the first thing that you want to do, is really recognize yourself, understand yourself first. Does that make sense? Why you would want to even be able to pick out the parts of yourself that you see? So I'm going to trust you to do that exercise for yourself. And when you look at this chart, after it's all done, you're going to see check marks in all 4 quadrants, and you'll be able to see how you're uniquely wired and what parts of you actually make up the whole from each one of these different personality styles. So that's for yourself. Now for others, how I would use this chart. I would try and figure out, just based on what I've learned so far from Matthew's descriptions, who I'm working with. Start with the people that are closest to you or the people that are very obvious. Do you know somebody who's a high D? Do you know someone who is, boy, they are so steady and supportive. They really don't like conflict. They need to be assured, etc. Pick one of those and do the same exercise with them. Why do you think they are what they are? This is going to help you spot differences in the people, in the personalities that you're working with, and identify them. Identify yourself first, and then identify others. And it becomes simpler. We're going to play a game right now. I'm going to show you. So we're going to play this game, and we're going to flip into understanding styles based on different celebrities. So celebrities who are in the public eye, people that we've known through history that have a pretty their personalities are pretty much out there. We're going to see how well, based on what you know about this individual, if you can guess what their personality style is, and you're only going to guess the primary style, okay? Nothing complex. So let's go to the first person. Mother Teresa, hop it in the chat. What style do you think she is? A D, I, S, or a C? Mother Teresa of Calcutta. She was a Catholic nun who reached out to the poor orphans of Calcutta. She was famed for her nurturing ability. What do you think she is? Would that be an S, an I, a D, or a C? Now, I can't see the chat too well, so I'm not sure if people are saying anything or if I'm just talking and not seeing any responses. Oh, somebody got it right away. S's. Yes, she is a supportive style. And if you read anything about Mother Teresa, well, first of all, mother, when we think of the term mother, we think of somebody who is nurturing, who is caring. And this is one of her beautiful quotes. It is a kindly act to assist the fallen. So she's somebody who picks them up, who cares for them, who nurtures them. So you can see where she's an S. Let's move on to another one. And I think you guys know this person, Jack Ma. Jack Ma. What do y'all think he is? Okay, John's saying a D. Does everybody agree? Think he's a D? Somebody's saying an I, an I? Okay, so we have a little bit of a back and forth. Oh, an ID. So maybe he's a blend of the two. Great call. So let's see what he says here. This is his quote. If you don't give up, you still have a chance. Giving up is the greatest failure. So I can totally see a blend of ID there. The D part is D's don't give up. D's see failure as giving up. You do not give up. But the I part is saying you still have a chance. You're saying there's a chance. There's an optimistic part of Jack that comes up. So yes, definitely I see the D and I see the I. Good job, guys. All right, let's move on to this next one. Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was the head of Apple, and Apple computers since passed away. Just look at that big smile on his face. What do you think that is? Got a big smile. Big smiles are big. Stay hungry. Stay hungry. So yeah, there's the D part. There's the D part. Stay foolish. Which one of the personality styles would be, yeah, let's be foolish and let's go play and let's have fun and let's figure it out. And I, absolutely. So you can see definitely an I, but he's got that definite D part to him as well. Good job, guys. I think C is something that we would naturally go for with Steve because he's with computers. And so we think about people who have that temperament, that personality style, really being more focused on technology and those being C's. But when you start reading about him, you actually see that he's not. He's definitely more of an I, but he does have C in him. So let's look at this last one. And this last one's a famed character from literature, Sherlock Holmes, the famed detective. What do you all think he is? When you've eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, how improbable, must be the truth. Oh, yeah. Shirley got it right away. He is a C. He's definitely a C. Just the facts, ma'am, as Matthew stated earlier, is definitely Sherlock Holmes. So play this game. See if you can figure people out that are in your world of celebrities, the ones that are, their lives are so public, it becomes very easy to spot the patterns of their communication. And that's what you're looking for, is patterns of communication. So let's move on. All right. For your disc profile, you should know your primary and your secondary profile, as well as your tendencies. That's going to come out of that exercise that I just asked you to do when you have a moment. What you need to learn, which is your blind spot and your comfort zone. So when you're more self-aware, now you begin to understand there are people that frustrate you for very good reason. And guess what? There are people you frustrate just by the way you go about doing things. So we've developed a little chart to give you a little bit more insight into that. So we're going to bring that up. And you're going to have this chart to refer to. So if you can see this, you have the DISC, real simple line, very easy. This doesn't have to get too deep, but if you are a D and your colleague is a D, well, why would that cause tension if you're both the same? Well, it could be because you might over control and they want control and they need freedom and control. So understand, this is where D's go head to head. If you are an I and you're working with a C, your lack of attention to detail and impulsive tendencies can drive them absolutely crazy. And then we just take a look at the S's. The S's and your colleague is an I, that you'd think that they get along because they're both people oriented, but the I has a faster pace than the S. So if you don't move fast, it's going to annoy them. And then our C's, if a C is working with an I, they're going to get irritated because they don't have any attention to detail. And the C is going to annoy a D because they have a slower and more methodical pace. There's all kinds of ways that you can use this tool to help you. But I'd like you to think about your own personal life and your interactions with people. I'm going to share very quickly how this understanding personalities helped me with my relationship with my father. And my father and I were at opposite ends on the personality spectrum. I'm a high I, he was a C, primarily, our primary. So high I's, as you have learned, function with extroverted feelings, emotions, they're high emotion, etc. Is a C high emotion? No. A C has a lot of emotion, but they don't show it. They keep it under control. So here I am, this little high I, running around with all kinds of emotion. And my dad is like, oh, Lord, could you just give me a moment's peace? I'm sure, because it was very, wild in that regard. Translate as I got older, I began to feel like my father's lack of expressing his feelings for me. C's don't express a lot of feeling, do they? I translated that in my world as he doesn't love me. And that was devastating. I thought my dad didn't love me. And I understand that there are situations where there are relationships where there are very terrible relationships. But the reality for me, and a good one, is that my dad did love me. But it wasn't until I understood about personalities that I understood that he did not express it to me the same way that I expressed it to him. And when I finally understood that he loves me, he just doesn't show it, then I could back off. I didn't have to come up and just, hug him and beg for the attention and whatnot. It wasn't comfortable for him. And you know what? That's okay. It's better for me to let him be who he is and accept him for who he is and be okay with that. And it made all the difference in the world in our relationship, because at that point on, when I began to back off and understand that, we began to communicate very differently. And it made all the difference in the world. So that's why this is really important to understand, that people are different from you, but don't tell a story about them. Don't make up stuff from your own reality. Really see it from their perspective, because that makes the biggest difference. Is when you meet people where they are, you don't expect them to meet you where you are. Remember, you're the one that's in charge of this information right now. You've been given this information. You are responsible for being the leader and acting that out in the way that you know how. So thinking through these personalities and thinking through your relationships are going to help you learn how to accept people where they are and then communicate with them differently. You don't have to do it the way you always want to do it. You can meet them where they are. So what I'd like to do is go into some real world application right now. What I was just describing is a little bit about fitting a square peg into a round hole. And sometimes we can see that happen with individuals where maybe they think they have to be a certain way to be accepted, or we want them to be a certain way to be accepted. And that's what we call fitting a square peg into a round hole. So in this example here, it's a dominant compliant personality style. And this the exact opposite, this poor inspiring supportive style is trying to be more dominant and compliant, but it's just hard because they're not wired that way. So we want to look at the ways that we're wired. We want to look at how our colleagues are wired and see how can we just let them be who they are and lead them in a way that allows them to flourish. So we're going to break into a couple of different groups now. And we're going to ask you to share your primary profile, what your tendencies are, and what you need to learn. Where's your blind spot? And then let's discuss also how your profile could cause tension for somebody else. So you have those little charts. We can work off those charts and explore those together as well. So we're going to break into teams and do that. And then we will come back. Matthew, how long do we have in our breakout session?
15 minutes.
15 minutes? Okay. And then we'll come back after 15 minutes.
Okay, I will put us into four group. Okay.
So it's important to put this into practice. And the best way to do this is to think of an important relationship. Is it a parent, a sibling, a team member, a boss? Think of one important relationship. Look at your profile and the profile of the other person. What do you think they are? And then write 2 to 3 things that you can do to make the relationship more healthy. So I'll go back to my dad and I'll give you an example of what I did. One of the things that I stopped doing was pushing him for extended affection. I wanted to get a long hug from my dad. My dad was not comfortable giving long hugs. My mom was, but not my dad. So I stopped trying to force that affection because it was uncomfortable for him. Not that he didn't feel it, but it was uncomfortable for him. The second thing that I did was I began to ask more questions of him. As a high I, it's easy for me to just chat and talk and tell stories, blah, 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 on and on. But I got to make room for a C to give them space to share. So I decided I would back off of that chatty talk and ask my dad questions. And what I found, and this took a long, long time, but what I found was years later, I'd be on the phone with my dad, and my dad would be talking up a storm. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, good grief, I got to get off the phone here. He's talking and talking and talking. And it stunned me when I realized that we'd finally made room for him to share, and he felt comfortable enough that he could. So it was a long-term play that sometimes I did it right and sometimes I didn't do it right, but it paid off. So I want you to think about those relationships in your life that are important. What are a couple of things that you can do to make that relationship more healthy, and give yourself room to do it for an extended period of time? Because it's probably not going to change in a week, but you might see some bigger changes in a month or two or longer if you're consistent with the change that you're making to allow them to be more of themselves. So just to wrap up our self-awareness, again, Matthew did just an incredible job of an explanation of the personalities. And we've given you some tools that are simple, but very, very effective, so that you can understand when you're more self-aware and you know who you are and who others are, you're going to be able to have better relationships. Thinking a couple of things for yourself. One would be a big thing you can change right away is to watch someone's pace. Have you ever walked down a city sidewalk with someone and they walk faster than you, or you walk faster than them? I used to work in New York, and I'm a fast walker, and I will leave you in the dust. But what I realized is that that is annoying to somebody who does not walk fast. And it's easy to shift your pace so that you're even with one another. So when you look at assertives have a fast pace, reserves have a slow pace. Are you a fast talker? Slow down. Are you a slow talker? Speed it up a little bit. These are things that you can do right away to make a difference. And then, of course, we have our people versus task-oriented, and paying attention to who you're working with to meet them where they are. So I hope this self-awareness has made a big difference for you, at least getting you started. And I'd like to find out what questions you have at this point that we might be able to answer for you.
就是说，我想提醒一下大家，就是 Leslie 做这个行业做 DISC，已经做了10多年了，甚至20年了，然后如果你有关于 DISC 和其他的人相处做 team，任何一些问题你可以提出来。还有就是说提醒一下我，这是我们最后一次课程，所以如果你关于其他的内容也有一些别的问题的话，你也可以把它提出来。如果你觉得你不会讲英文或者什么的，你可以先讲中文，我们帮你翻译一下但是要抓这个机会去问一些问题的，可以直接开麦，也可以在聊天框，也可以在微信里面。我们先留个几分钟的时间去让你想一下。And then open. So I just explained with them a little bit that we can cover anything from tonight or anything that we've covered over the sessions, because this is the last session of the 6 months. So if there's anything, there's the chat box, plus they can open their mics, or also there's a WeChat group that we're all a part of. So we'll be kind of looking across there. If there's nothing after a few minutes, then we'll kind of come back over again. It's relatively quiet.
对，大家有问题可以讨论一下。
可能都是 S 或者 C，不敢。
刚刚有很多 D 啊， 很多 I 和
对
D。
D 和 I，对，可能 D 什么都已经懂了嘛，I 他们根本没在开会，他们是在做别的事情。
老师，我问一个问题哈，就是我刚才测试的我是 D 型的，但是我平时在日常生活中我又是一个 I 人，
嗯
就是嗯，就有些时候会很矛盾，因为你本身在工作中你是一个主导型的，可能对，但是平时的话，你的性格又觉得你不是那种爱张扬，就是爱就是就怎么讲，就有点跟我这个性格还是有点矛盾的。另外还
嗯，
有就是比如说我的助理跟我的是一样的，都是 D 和什么呀？D 和 C 啊，
对，
支
你是 D
配和
C，
对。那我们之间是怎么相处会比较好呢？因为大家可能我看了一下那个比例哈，我是
嗯
40%的，是34%的。
嗯
那其实我们个 C 也是差不多的那个比例。那像这种我们都是同类型的人，嗯，我跟我助理都是同类型的，那我们之间怎么样一种比较融洽的这种就是相处的模式呢？这是我的问
嗯
题。
嗯。So Leslie, what she's asking is, well, kind of a two-parted question. The first part was she's noticed that in the workplace, she's a very high D, and on her test, the results was a very, very high D. So she's a DC. She's like a 42% D and like a 34 or so percent C. Um, she finds that when she's not at work, she's more of an I. She's more, you know, easygoing and with people and things like that. So there's kind of a conflict between who she is at work and who she is with her friends or at home or not at work. And how do you kind of make a balance between those two? And then also in the work environment, she's high DC. And for example, her PA is also high D and C. How do you try to balance or work together when you're both a very similar profile, and how do you be more effective with work with two Ds, for example, or two Cs?
Is she the manager?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I want to pull up a chart, and I had a computer hard drive failure, and all of my files are in different places. But I want to show you a chart if I can get it. No. All right. Okay. So when you take this, Matthew, the disc that we're showing here, does it show basic style and natural style, or does it just show one chart?
Just
It
shows
just
one
shows
chart.
one chart. Okay. So let me explain what's going on. And who asked that question, by the way?
That's Hui Li, the purple H there.
Hui Li? Hui Li? Okay. Hui Li, that is a really great question. Let me tell you what's going on. When you take a disc assessment, no, we're giving you a wonderful assessment. It's been vetted, it's great, it's very clear. There are more in-depth assessments that are available that show different charts. And what we know is that there is a hardwired personality and there is a how you show up personality. The hardwired personality is what we call your natural style. It's pretty much who you are in the dark. It's who you are when you're in your most comfortable environment. For you, it sounds like you're an I. In your most wonderful environment, it's like I'm an I can be carefree, I can be myself, I have no troubles at all. But when I get to work, here's the key, in order to be successful at work, I have to raise my D and I have to raise my C, because if I don't, I'm not going to be successful. And that is your adaptive style. We all have a natural style and an adaptive style. Some of them are close together because our work environment doesn't require us to change anything. But then some of us are very different because we have to change something in order to be successful in our work. And for you, it sounds like you've got to be much more of a D and you've got to raise your C in order to be successful. That's why there seems to be a conflict in what you're seeing at work and what you're seeing at home. And it really has to do with how you can be successful. So that's the most important thing to take away there. You might want to watch your stress level, because if you're not having fun at work, if you really are an I, way down deep inside, you're an I, you're motivated by fun. More than anything else, life's got to be fun. So if you get to work and you're not having any fun at all, then that can impact your stress. So what I mean by that is that if you're spending so much time being a D and so much time being a C that you don't have any time to be yourself, it could create a lot of stress for you. So just bear that in mind as you go through your workday, to find ways to enjoy it so that you can feed the natural part of yourself. When you're dealing with someone who is the same as you, I think it's very hard for Ds, because Ds so much like to be in control. And if you're the manager, then you're really in control because you're the person that has the final say. So if your D person is reporting into you and you're the D manager, it's very easy for you to just say, sorry, it's going to be my way or the highway. And I want you to think about how that would feel for you when you go to your boss and your boss says, it's my way or the highway. And what that does is it absolutely invalidates everything that this person could be bringing to you. So as the leader, as the manager, you are the leader. And sometimes the leaders need to take the back seat. So it's an opportunity for you to say to this person who is a D, give them charge. Give them the opportunity to take the reins. Say, I want you to do this. I want you to be in charge. Just let me know what you're thinking and feeling. And let's talk and make sure we're on the same page. But let them take charge. It's going to be hard for you to do that, especially as, having that high D there. And you also need to make sure you can trust this individual to do what they need to do. And that's another discussion that you'll have to have with them at another time. When you're a high C and you're dealing with another high C, there's also the rules and the regulations and the compliance and the forms and the way you do things, because C's like to be right. And most C's are right most of the time. It's very annoying, very, very annoying, but they're right. I worked with a company with their leadership group, and the man who was in charge of finance was a very high C. And I was in a meeting with he and a couple of other people, and the marketing person said to him, I don't understand why we have to do all of your stupid reports anyway, because it just doesn't make sense. It just takes too long to get anything done because we have to do all this stuff with your dumb reports. So that was a high I talking to a high C. So the high C is highly accurate. The gentleman had created those reports because many people's bonus depended on those reports. And he created these reports that would give people the best bonus. He'd worked hours, weeks, months on this to only to have a high I completely destroy everything that he had worked on, completely being insensitive. He's used to being right. Now, when you're a high C and you're used to being right as well, again, it comes back to who the leader is. So yes, you're the leader. Yes, you have the final say, but give them an opportunity to be right and to share what they can do, because they are absolutely brilliant and with numbers and putting together reports and being precise and understanding details and finding out the wrong thing and fixing it. So my recommendation would be to let them. And as the leader, step back and let your people shine, knowing that your friction points are going to come because you want to be in control or because you want to be right.
好的，谢谢，我懂了，放权，理解理解，好，谢谢，Thank you。
Thank you, Huey.
Delegation 啊，
Delegation,
That was such a great question. I hope I helped.
yeah, she said she was able to understand, and it was
Oh,
beneficial.
okay. Oh, good. That was a
Excuse
good
me,
question.
may I have a question?
Sure, Naphtali.
Uh, okay, thank you very much.
他关了麦，Naphtali 我们听不到。
OK，谢谢。是这样的，就是这个课我对我说，我觉得挺有意思的。就是目前呢，我是属于典型的 High D，然后我妻子呢是属于典型的 High S。对于像我们这样的家庭组合，老师有没有什么建议，或者是帮你有没有什么就是婚姻生活上的建议给到我们？谢谢。
All right. So Naphtali said he's a typical high ID, and his wife is a high S.
Oh.
And so he was asking any pointers. He asked me if because I'm actually the exact same situation. I kind of mentioned it a little bit, and then I'll actually go back to this chart here. This one here. If I'm a high S, or sorry, if I'm a high I, she's a high S, or if I'm a high D and she's a high S, both of these can be true. I don't spend enough time listening, and I don't spend enough time developing deepened relationship. It's not that I have lots of relationships with lots of people. I love having lots and lots of relationships. However, the depth of relationships and the amount that I listen to people's true feelings is very lacking. Additionally, on this one here, same exact thing, really. My speed can be too fast. Sometimes she gets very frustrated because she's also a C, with my inability to focus on any one thing for a long period of time. And because I'm more I than D, I have a tendency to be more spontaneous and willing to take on different tasks for Ds. For the Ds that are around me, I like being a really good helper. I like helping them to accomplish tasks, and because I have some D in me, but I also like them liking me. And so most of my day is based around being liked by others, and so or being impressive. And so that's what I focus on. Now, for my wife, who's a high SC, she wants quality, she wants results, she wants things getting done as part of our work, but also within our relationship, she would like depth and sometimes at the end of the day. And also another thing that's difficult for us is that I'm a morning person and she's a nighttime person. So at the end of the day, I'm ready to fall asleep. It's 9-10 o'clock at night. I'm ready to lay down. I can fall asleep straight away. I put my head on the pillow and I'm out. For her, it takes a very long time to fall asleep, and she needs to think and to talk about what's happened throughout the day. So I've learned that I need to schedule that time for designated talks with her. So I need to focus on having the opportunity for her to be heard. And for me, that's more about, it's not necessarily because that's what I prefer or I want to do, but I also prefer and I don't want her to be upset and frustrated. So for me, it's more about the opposite of fun avoidance. So fights and things like that. So avoiding those non-fun and very difficult situations can be done through being intentional and knowing about who she is and what she needs. And then making that just a part of my, I don't like to have a schedule, but I don't like fights even more. So I would gladly schedule in that time to have actually very lovely conversations, and it improves our communication. It improves my understanding of what she's working on, her understanding of what I've been doing, even though I haven't planned it out. Things are accomplishing and things are going forward. So she likes to hear about it. And so we can have a communication about kind of a bigger plan. So when you asked about for a family, for example, and a husband and wife working together as a team, well, it's beautiful that you're different because you're bringing wonderful, different properties to a team together to create a more big picture or a more complete picture, right? So we talk about a marriage being two becoming one, right? And so that grouping of 1 + 1 is bigger than 2 really only happens when you understand each other's strengths and then utilize them to make a better whole of a team. And so that's on you as the husband to be intentional about that and to be structured in your time and to make sure that you're caring for her in the way that she feels it, not the way that you think she should. And so understanding her, understanding what times are best for her to do that, and then, compromising in a way that allows her strengths to really, really complement your team of husband and wife, rather than just making you comfortable as an individual. So think of yourselves as a team and what the team needs, not thinking of yourself as an individual and how do I avoid conflict with this person. If you focus only on conflict avoidance, the stress level, like Leslie was saying, the stress level gets a lot higher. But when you talk about being a team and how do we magnify the strengths the best, I think it's more enjoyable and the outcomes are usually more beneficial to the team. Leslie, did you have anything else to add on that?
No,
Yeah.
that was just so beautifully said. It was so beautifully said. I have to tell you that, Matthew, one thing that you pointed out about the man, that responsibility, the husband's the head of the household. There's a great deal of responsibility that goes into that, into caring for the wife, to caring for the children, to leading them. And I think that it is a very rare man that does that and that can do that. And I really appreciate that about you. I feel like when I look at myself and my husband, I look at how patient he is with me. And I know sometimes he's probably just, dying to get out of the room, but he does that. He does the same thing. I need to be listened to. He needs to let me wax on, and he does. And he does it without making me feel bad about it or rolling his eyes or, just like tapping his foot, like get on with it. He's extraordinarily patient, but can I tell you the difference that makes in our marriage? Because those are the things that he does every day for me that reinforce my love for him, that deepen my love for him, and it's really pretty extraordinary when you think about it. There is a quick analogy. I don't know if you guys have ever had dance lessons before. If you've ever gone and had dance lessons, like ballroom dance lessons is what I'm talking about. You might be able to get a free one. If you do, it's worth it because you begin to understand how much pressure women begin to understand how much pressure men are under to be in that leadership role. In ballroom dancing, you do not move as a woman until the man guides you. What I learned is that it was really hard for me not to take the lead. Remember, I've got D in me. It was hard for me to, but when I learned then we could move. And then I realized he has to know where we're going. He's the one that's got to lead it. And it dawned on me the amount of incredible pressure that men face as leaders, especially in a marriage. And so that gave me pause to think how much more patient I need to be as a wife with him if I get frustrated with him. He has more on his shoulders that I'm aware of. So I would just encourage you all, if you're in that same situation, to look at it from both angles.
Awesome perspective. Naphtali, do you feel like that helped?
Okay, thank you, Leslie, thank you, Bonnie, thank you very much.
No problem.
Welcome.
Marcia asked if you have any books that you recommend on today's topics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got a great one. I can find it here. There are two, and one of them is I've moved it. There's one on disc by a gentleman named Dr. Robert Rome, and it's called "Who Do You Think You Are Anyway?" And I'll put it in this. Who do you think? If I could type anyway, by Dr. Robert Rome. And the other one, it's similar. It's called Personality Plus, and it's by Florence Littauer. And she uses the 4 temperaments, so you won't see DISC, but you'll recognize DISC. She just calls them something different. But she's also a really great, easy read about the different personality styles. So Dr. Robert Rome and Florence Littauer are my favorites. Oh,
Yeah, one that I put there in the chat group is How to Win Friends and Influence People.
oh, that's a great one.
That's a classic book, and it's
Yeah.
available in Chinese. I found that's my daughter read it. She loves it. She's only 14, and she was able to really enjoy that. My wife is reading it now, but it's a really good book for effective conversations. I'll say that. Being very effective in conversations. Remember, we talked about influence is getting people to do things without you telling them expressly to do it. And so being able to understand people and to draw from them, to be able to ask questions of people in a way that allows them to speak about themselves. It's the best book I've ever found for that. I've used the tactics in that so many different times in difficult conversations or conversations with people that don't like to talk, trying to get them kind of out of their shell and into talking. And then once you start to learn and know more about people, I think healthy relationships naturally occur the more you understand people and can find either common interests or interesting things about them. And it allows you to create connections, right? Relationships all about connections. And so anything that you can find that's helping you grow and learn and get more connections with others, and it happens a lot of times through conversation. So that's a book that I really enjoyed for that.
That's a must-have. That's definitely a must-have for sure.
I believe
I'm going
it
to
was
run to
Carnegie
another
that wrote
meeting.
that.
I'm so sorry. Do what?
Yeah, Carnegie wrote that, I believe.
Yes, Dale Carnegie.
Dale Carnegie.
Yes. Yes. I hate to drop off. I have another meeting that's starting in 3, so please forgive me. It was so good to see everybody, and hope to see you again soon. Thanks again, Matthew. What a great job. Yeah.
Thank
Thanks
you,
so much.
Leslie.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
You can take a picture.
Thank you.
Picture.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay.
Yeah, can we open the? Yeah, I can.
Take a photo.
Take a photo. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Great. Thank you. Have a good
Thank
night.
you. Have a good
Everybody,
night.
Bye bye.
thank
See you guys
you.
next
Bye-bye.
week.